Welcome to the historic Green in Dover, Delaware. In 1683, William Penn ordered the town of Dover to be laid out as a means of establishing a court in the lower counties. In 1717, the final order was enacted to include a public square, the most prominent of three common areas described in his original decree. The public square, or courthouse square, was a 1/2 acre of bare dirt with cross streets running through it. The north-south street became State Street. Ironically, William Penn originally decreed that State Street to be 3 times the width it is today. Those orders were ignored. What is left of an east-west street is today known as Bank Lane. Also decreed were the installations of 2 town water pumps, one on the east side of the square and one on the west side. On March 14, 1846, the green was ordered plowed, probably for grading and seeding. Exactly 3 years later, on March 14, 1849, Francis B. Harper presented a bill to the legislature for elm trees and their planting on the green. 1 month later, a whitewashed fence was built around the square to protect the young trees. This fence remained in place until June 6, 1864, when it was taken down and sold. A slice of one of the original trees is on display in the Dover Museum. All of Dover's residents, both local and those from the plantations outside of town, mixed freely on and around the green, where both routine and important events took place. They participated in weekly marketing and biannual market fairs, watched local militia muster and practice drills. The locals burned King George in effigy, and on July 29, 1776, heard the Declaration of Independence read from the courthouse steps. It was also the center of many social activities, such as picnics and tea parties. The game of croquet was also considered a Victorian craze. In April 1865, Mr. and Mrs. J. Alexander Fulton introduced the game in the garden of their home, Rose Cottage. By 1890, it was at the height of its popularity all over Dover, with at least 20 formal game sites. It eventually got out of hand, and the authorities had to step in and rescue the ravaged green from the frenzied croquet enthusiasts by banning the game altogether in this location. From the beginning, the buildings on the green were a combination of residential, business, private, and government buildings, including several taverns. The earliest post office was most likely located in what today is called the John Bell House, also the interpretive headquarters for the first State Heritage Park. Other government buildings were the original courthouse on the southeast corner of the Green and State Street, which was built as a courthouse sharing space with a tavern. Another government building is what we now call the Old State House on the far east side of the Green. To the right of the Old State House was the Samuel Chew Mansion. This mansion was demolished in 1910 to make way for the Supreme Court building. There were 2 banks located on the Green: the First National Bank at 4 the Green, and the Old Farmers Bank, naturally located on the corner of Bank Lane. At least 2 taverns were located on the Green. Probably one of the most famous was the Golden Fleece Tavern, where in 1787, 30 men convened to establish Delaware as the first state in the Union to ratify the Constitution. The Golden Fleece building was eventually replaced by the Capitol Hotel. Today, the building serves as a home to merchant shops on the first level, with residential apartments on the second level. Directly south of the Golden Fleece was the George Washington Tavern, renamed from the King George Tavern. Like the Golden Fleece, this building shared space with the legislature and eventually became the official courthouse for Kent County. The Baptist Church at 40 The Green was built by devout Baptists George and Jane Paris in 1850. In 1897, the building was sold to the Dover Century Club, who still remains today an active organization occupying the building. Commingling with the businesses, churches, taverns, and government buildings were also residential homes. Some of Delaware's most prominent and significant citizens lived in these homes. Perhaps the most well-known of the private residences is the Park Ridgely home, built by Thomas Park in 1726. It is the oldest still standing of all the other buildings on the green. This home was purchased by Charles Greenberry Ridgely in 1767 and still remains in that family as a private residence. In 1737, Samuel Dickinson hired a young Irish immigrant, William Killen, to be tutor for his son John, the future founding father. From this lowly beginning, William Killen rose to become the very first Chief Justice and Chancellor for the state of Delaware. William Killen built the brick home at 10 The Green in 1753. It remained in the Killen family until 1940, when it was sold to the Hughes Jackson family. It remains today as a private residence in that same family. Another home built as a private residence is the Joshua Fisher home, built in 1790. Although Fisher died in 1791, ownership of the home passed through his family and eventually to U.S. Senator and Chief Justice of Delaware, Joseph Comegys. In 1939, the house was purchased by N. Maxon and Rebecca Terry. As with other residences on the green, this home remains in the family as a private residence. 54 The Green is a building of mixed use throughout the decades. Built in the early 1800s, it has vacillated between housing a candy shop, lawyer offices, a private residence, an insurance business, and back to being a private residence. The nationally known lawyer Frank Davis and his wife Vera Gilbride Davis, the first woman in the state of Delaware to be elected to statewide public office, purchased the home in 1927. The house remained in the Davis family until the year 2000. Today, it continues to be a private residence. The Dover Fire Department began as a result of the devastating Capitol Hotel fire on the Green. Because the town only had a few buckets and ladders, a telegram was sent to Wilmington requesting assistance. Wilmington loaded their equipment on a train, which arrived early the following morning. Water needed to be pumped up from the St. Jones River to put the fire out. In November 1882, 17 men met in Oddfellows Hall. $1 silver was collected from each man, and the treasury of the Robbins Hose Company was established. It remains the only volunteer fire department in the country for a state capital. In 1898, Cordelia Bodkin, a scorned lover, mailed a package of poisoned candy along with an anonymous note from her residence in California to to the wife of her ex-lover in Dover, Delaware. That wife, Mary Elizabeth Dunning, daughter of former Congressman John Pennington, was residing in her parents' home on the Green. After 2 days in agony, Mary and her sister died of arsenic poisoning. The subsequent murder trial was the first case involving a crime committed in 2 different states. Historically, it was a forensic science landmark at a time when most courts did not recognize handwriting specialists as forensic experts. On March 7, 1910, while confined to San Quentin, Cordelia became unconscious and died. Today, the Dover Green remains much as it was when first established in 1717, a combination of residential houses, commercial buildings, and government entities. It continues as a hub for public events, concerts, festivals, and fairs, retaining the historical flair Dover is known for.